We're back. I have the motorhome here at my garage in service position. We'll call this generator service position. I just pulled it up as close as I can get it so I can kind of feel like I'm inside even though I'm not. And I have this concrete apron, so that's pretty nice actually. But we can finally get to work on the generator here. Last time I left off with this, I was working on the sector shaft seal, and I found that, you know, the foam padding of my generator deteriorated to unacceptably poor condition. So I wanted to do that, but I also found that my generator coolant lines were leaking. So these run around the back, and it's touching the exhaust in a spot. And I've also had an oil leak for quite a long time, and I've kind of ignored it. Not ignored it, but I clean around it and pay attention, and I've never smelled like smoke like it was falling on the exhaust. So I've always heard that it's probably the oil pressure sender, oil pressure switch. And I was always one of those things where I'll get around to it someday. Well, someday is today. So during the sector shaft seal, I ended up taking off the bottom tray. So this panel is installed on the side of my generator compartment, and this is a way to get at the sector shaft. And then this is the panel that goes underneath the generator, and this actually isn't as bad to remove as I thought. I really should have removed that before and kind of taken a look at the back of my generator, and I would highly recommend you guys do the same, because especially if you're leaking oil or whatever, because we tend to run in very hot weather, and in that very hot weather the generator is a mandatory on our coach. So in cold weather you can get away without it. So anyway, this is the supplies that I got to do the job. So we have all 6 hoses. I matched the hoses. So these hoses must be under the label, but there's embossed into them their length and their diameter. And so I went through the coach and I measured in cases where I could find the diameter, or not the diameter, but the length. I ordered that exactly. Sometimes I was able to get the part number and order that exactly. But, I'm replacing the hoses with what's in there because I kind of like this stuff. This is called Gates Volcoflex 2. And it's a real thick radiator hose, and, the generator is not exactly an intense use case for this stuff. And I got these. So this is kind of like a tape, but it's in a sheet form. So it's a Reflecticool by DEI. And I'm going to use this to tape off the seams of the generator insulation. And so I'm going to cut strips however wide I need. Somebody else recommended this, and it sounded like a good idea because I can make bigger squares if I need to or something like that. I got, what are you? I believe this is the oil pressure sender. Yeah. So this is what's leaking all the oil in my generator. I found this. I just searched for 3LD1 oil pressure switch, and I hope it's right. And I got all new hardware for the fan that I took out, because I took out the generator fan because that's part of this job with the sector shaft seal. I took out the fan, so I'm going to try to wire wheel all of this and brake clean it to get the oil off, and then I'm going to spray some black spray paint on it. You can see it's all wet in here because I already washed it. So, this is a good time to do it because I'm going to have all these hoses out. Oh, and you can see that's the embossing. So it's 1 1/4 inch by 41, I believe that's inches long. And I got all new clamps. So yeah, so there's work to do in here. And these hoses terminate at a bulkhead there. But anyway, I got all new hardware to hold that fan on because that was kind of rusted. I got washers and lock washers for that hardware. I also got these small fender washers. So I'm going to use fender washers and self-tappers at 4 points on each surface to help hold this material up. So the insulation that I chose this, it's called Noiko 80 mil car sound deadening mat. It's available on Amazon. And this is kind of like it's very heavy. It's kind of like a Dynamat. So it's heavy, and from what I read, you basically want to do a layer of this first, and then it's a self-adhesive, and then you do a layer of this, which is DEI I believe it's boom mat, but it's an under hood thermal acoustic lining. And you know, this is a light, it's very light and it's thick. So this is kind of more for the thermal, and this is kind of more for the sound. And this has these neat little things that push down and let you know when you've rolled it. So with that Dynamat, you maybe don't need, but it's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier. You need like a heavy steel roller like this to push it down. I have no idea if the adhesive is going to work, but we'll see. So my docking lights, I have lost the hardware for them over the years, so I got new stainless hardware for the docking lights. This pulley and rope and cleat is for, I'm going to wrap this around, this was suggested in 4 forums. I'm going to wrap this around the radiator hose, the cooling hoses for the generator in the back, and I'm going to make it so that I can use this pulley, and I'll put the cleat up front so I can yank that coolant hose up off the exhaust to just make sure there's good separation so that it doesn't burn it ever again. And you know, I'll try to figure out exactly how much I need to pull on that, and I'll make a mark on the rope. That way in the future, when it's closed up under there and covered, I'll be able to know exactly how far I have to pull that to make sure that it's off of the generator exhaust. And you know, the other thing I said is I'm going to repaint. So I'm going to paint the fan. This is the generator fan. It has little scratches and stuff like that, and I like to try to put stuff in better than when I got it. So I'm going to mask off the motor and stuff like that, and then paint all of this stuff in this Krylon high heat. We'll see how that goes. And you know, in order to prep the surfaces, I got some brake cleaner. Brake cleaner is pretty good for that, I think. Most people use, like, they call it wax and grease remover, but I think brake cleaner will do the job well because it flashes off pretty quickly. But maybe this non-chlorinated is bad because, you know, this leaves something, because they say it could kill you if you weld. It releases gases. And this is so this, I got all new clamps, all except for 2, because I got 10 and it has 12 clamps. So I'll pick 2 of the best, oldest clamps, and I'll put them in an easy access position in case they break. And that's it. So yeah, we're doing installation, painting, and reassembly. So this is it's relatively straightforward. It's relatively easy. The only thing is, oh, and I plan to replace the generator end bearing. I'm going to try that, but I might make a separate video. I'm going to make a separate video out of that if I do that. I'm going to try to do this with the generator in place. So, you know, I don't know how much gap I will have in here once I, you know, pull this out, but, you know, hopefully I can sneak it through and get everything in place and then pull the adhesive out behind it. You know, it probably won't matter for the Noiko, the sound deadening mat, but it, you know, the thermal insulation is thicker. So yeah, we'll try to get all this cleaned up, try to brake clean off all this, just basically get everything vacuumed up, and we'll see where it goes. Neat thing is that I can kind of fit it here. So it's pretty easy to remove all this stuff, and I'm gonna have to just sit here and scrape away for a while with the drill, but I think, you know, I can get to everything. I should be able to clean it all up. So anyway, you get the point. I have to clean all this stuff off and figure out how much of this red contact adhesive I have to get off. And on a side note, I'm really impressed with this contact adhesive. The foam was held up. The foam in between the layers of the liner is what disintegrated. So in my opinion, Foretravel used a ridiculous glue. I don't even know what this red stuff is, but it's amazing that after so many years it's still stuck that well. And it seems to be stuck better in the areas where it was hotter, which is usually the opposite with adhesive. So I'll spare you some more of this cleaning. So anyway, I'll be back when this is finished. It's a new day. I cleaned up best I could last night, but I'll have to pressure wash this to get this foam away. But the good thing is it's like dry. It's not oil soaked or anything. So we're back. Everything's cleaned up. I'll have to do a final wipe with, I guess, alcohol or acetone to get off any of the little crumbles and dust. And then, to start with today, we're going to get these hoses out of the way. So I think I'm going to try to start draining it from here. So I'll loosen this up, and then I will get the vacuum and start trying to suck the coolant out of it without making a mess. So we'll see how that goes. So this is top to top and bottom to bottom on the bulkhead. There we go. So that probably didn't get it all out because there's going to be coolant in the block, and unless you pull the block drain, you're not going to get that out. But it did get a lot out, and it probably got out 90% of what's in the radiator. You know, when it comes to the new coolant, that should be enough because you know, the anti-corrosive properties is kind of a bulk game. All right, I'll disconnect these on the radiator side and do the same thing, and then we will move to the next thing. All right, I'm going to try to attack the oil pressure sender, which is leaking, and the two rear generator mounts. Now, I already replaced these front ones. I actually kind of forget how I did that. For the rear, what we're going to do is, you'll be able to see this, is I'm going to put this between, you know, the generator and the bracing in the rear, and then I'm going to jack up in the middle, and that should support the generator. I hope this bar is strong enough. We'll find out. So there's actually, under the engine mount, this is kind of like a threaded rod, and then there's a nut underneath, and that's a 9/16. So I had to put a wrench on that in order to get this off. The other one just kind of stuck or seized. This one put up more of a fight. So we'll have to sort that out before we go put the new one in. Tell you what, I had enough of this stuff to last a lifetime yesterday. This is what an oil leak gets you. A completely dissolved engine mount. No, it is. I think it just broke. Huh. Yeah, it's not gonna work because it's broken. So have to find something else. Did you find one?
These two are as short as I can find.
Those are fine. I just didn't want super big ones.
Good.
Yeah, hang on. Pump. Stop.
Pump?
Slowly, buddy. No, it's at the top. You gotta try something else. Okay, go ahead. Pull, pull, pull. Keep pulling.
I'm dangling.
Oh boy. Okay, let go. Keep it in the same spot because you'll need to do it again.
Okay. Oh boy, I was dangling.
I bet you were.
I was like, my legs were off the ground. I was like, oh boy.
All right, you ready to do it again?
All right.
All right, give it a shot. A little more. A little more. A little more. Is there nothing left? Yeah, let me try from this side.
Hurry! I can't hold it anymore.
You can let it go.
Oh boy, I think it's wobbling.
Be careful, don't let it slip out and hurt yourself.
I think it's slipping.
It could easily slip out and hurt you. So you have to control it. You can't be crazy. Alright, it's not gonna work. So why don't you pull that out and give it to me, the bar.
This?
I think you're just not strong enough. I'll try it myself from in here.
Good luck.
I just don't have the space.
You okay?
That's what I mean, you gotta make sure it doesn't slip. That is heavy.
I told you.
There we go.
That worked.
It's the secret, you just lift it yourself. Thankfully, I don't have a bigger generator.
Got it?
Yep, all done. Now I just have to put everything back together. Thank you for your help. It was very appreciated.
I tried. I didn't help my best.
It's okay. We got it. That's what matters.
What's it like under the box?
Oh, you're looking at it.
The box.
Alright, so we're at the installation stage. First I'll have to kind of clean up the residues in there with acetone, and then I can start sticking stuff. This is the DEI thermal pad. This will be on the outside. I don't think I bought enough of this stuff. But we'll see. Because I don't need a full sheet on the left side because there's the generator intake. And I don't need a full sheet on the right side. Well, the right side I kind of need one. I don't need one on the back because the back has a huge heat shield and it can kind of be a patchwork under there and nobody will be able to see that. So this is the stuff that's going underneath, and I've already measured and cut the top, so this is kind of how I think I'm going to do it. So I'm going to put this in, I'm going to cut this to length, and I'll cut this to length and width because it's slightly too long, and then we'll try to hang it. Not too bad. Now we gotta roll it, and it says when you properly roll it, these things flatten out, which they seem to. So I'll probably do like a center out roll. Try to avoid a whole bunch of bubbles. Keep a little wrinkle, but the wrinkles flatten out pretty good, which is beautiful, because I think it would be hard to get it all perfectly. The nice thing about this Noco is these little diamonds, they help you cut it straight too. Alright, that's finished. So since I rolled this with that rusty roller, I'm going to do a quick acetone wipe on this before I try to stick the other stuff. You laugh, I said I wasn't a little nervous. That's really sticky stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to go around the front. I'll pull the adhesive down, then I'll come back in and push it out this way. Try to do a center out. Hopefully it won't create wrinkles. Oh, I forgot to do the holes. I guess the light is getting new holes. That's okay. And so this is my backup plan. Fender washer and 1-inch self-tapper. I'm going to put one of these at each of the 4 corners. Should make it so that when it starts falling, I have a little bit of time. Beauty. So I think this side will be my next full sheet, and I'll cut the bulkhead out of it, and then these I'm going to try to piece together as well as the back, and we'll see if I have enough or not. Giant sheet of butyl tape. Oh, a bit of a disappointment. I realized that I cut this one. I didn't cut it crooked, but I hung it crooked. You can see it up here. It's not too bad. Alright, it's a new day, and here's where we're at. I have the Noiko in, and I have the outer insulation. And I only went down to about flush with here because I just didn't see the point in going lower. And same deal with this side. And I don't have any of the tape on yet. I did put a piece of tape on the back, and it's not actually tape. I cut out, it's like a sheet adhesive, and you see I had to make like lots of little cuts for some of these to have enough material, and I think it actually looks pretty good even with the seams. But I'm gonna tape up all the seams. But first, since I intend to paint this, I have to get all of this oil residue out of here. I think I'm gonna work around this generator muffler. The rest of everything I'm gonna take out. So I'll take this out, and then I'll just start going over all of this with brake cleaner or acetone or whatever seems to suck up the oil. And then, you know, we'll scuff this up with, I think I'll hit that with like sandpaper. Try to get that all ready for paint. So, I mean, I'm not a painter, so I have no idea if this amount of surface prep is sufficient for high heat engine paint. Unfortunately, this is a little bit more haggard than I thought, and I don't have a tool that can get in there too well. This I'm using now is acetone. Should help clean up some of the residues. Yeah, the good thing is that the majority of this is covered by the radiator fan. So, given my lack of experience with painting, and given that this panel is deteriorating anyway, we'll call this an experiment. So I'm going to call it like that. It may have adhesion problems back here, but as I said, that'll be covered. So we need to do masking now. Go on a vertical fan. So I'm piecing together new coolant hoses, and I got these. These are by ICT Billet. They are billet aluminum barbed nipples, I guess you call them. It's all like brass ones from Home Depot and whatnot, but I figured these would be better. Just because they said aluminum is less reactive than brass. The problem with these though is that these are, I guess they're designed for racing, so they're pretty light. So I actually marked this one with a T so that I know it's the top one. It goes from the top fitting on the generator to the top fitting on the bulkhead. So there should be no confusion there. So this stuff is that DEI Reflecticool, and I really like it. It's very adhesive and it's thick. So, you know, I think they expect you to use it in sheet form, but I'm using it as a tape. So I am just cutting off 3-inch sections, and I have this lined up on the table to try to make an actual square cut. So like that little piece I'm trying to rip off is super strong. It's like a fabric reinforced tape, you know, like duct tape, but stronger. So I'll cut off probably at least 7 pieces to start. So this is up inside the bay. You can kind of see all the cuts I made. So there's a cut, which is my scrub cut, and now I have this heat shield back on, and I put 1 piece of tape up there to start. And then back here is a lot of cuts, and then also a lot of cuts in here. So there'll be a lot of little pieces of tape there, but that should make everything nice and strong. I think that's about the best angle we're gonna get, because space is limited. But let's see what we can do with this. So I think we'll do the top. So I have to figure out my length here. Probably could have done this with a tape measure, but you know. Alright, so for these, what I'm doing, what I did the first time is I've kind of folded it like this. And that'll allow me, after taking the backing off, to just stick it right up in and, you know, get kind of an equal amount of tape on each side. So first we get it to agree to the idea of it, and then we'll fold it over hard. That kind of gets it so that even if it's not perfectly centered, it's kind of in the ballpark, you know. Of course, I picked one of the harder ones to do on camera, which is I can't reach this top corner over here, so too bad. Now we have this little piece, which is perfect for that. Alright, I didn't show you the assembly of this, but you know, I got the top hose on and the bottom hose on, and this is how they ran through. It'd be nice if they had like an actual proper place for them, but they don't have such a thing. So it goes under the light and everything kind of works fine. And yeah, so I'll show you what I'm doing with the hose on the inside to prevent them from getting burned again. So now what happens here is, as you close the tray, the hoses, you're kind of stuck right behind there. So what you need is like a rope and a pulley to hold them up like that. That's all you gotta do, just a couple inches. Right? No problem. And then everything's got plenty of clearance from each other to not burn. So, I'm gonna do exactly that. A rope and a pulley. This is as suggested on Foreforums. We'll see how this goes. So here's where I'm at with this little plan. I tied the pulley to and made a knot in this one, and then I got these fender washers and self tappers, so I'm going to go up into the ceiling of the generator area We'll do that, and then we'll take this end of the pulley, we'll tie it around the cooling hoses, and on the other end we're going to attach it to a cleat out front. Let's see how this goes. That's not really working very well. That's annoying. So I should have put the pulley back further. I guess. I don't know if it has enough strength to begin with. I mean, oh, yeah, it does kind of work. Alright, so you start getting tired, you start running out of patience with the filming. The pulley situation did not work. The screw, when I screwed it up to hold it up, cut into the rope. So that's no good. So what I found is you can actually just kind of, once you put it in, just yank on here a little bit and it comes off. It actually is good to pull these out. So you could also just pull the hoses out too. Which I'm gonna see how that goes. I'll put it in, I'll pull all the extra hose out, and I'll see how that is, because that might be sufficient. If you just know that this will fall in there and you pull in the excess as you go, then you don't need a rope. So that's more of a knowledge situation. I got the new hoses in here. This is the results of the paint, and I still have to tighten this one and then put the fan in, hook up all the power and everything, and fill it up with coolant. So I'm not sure I'm gonna get to that today because I'm running out of daylight, but I'm at least gonna try to get the fan in place. I might do the coolant fill in first start tomorrow. Let's see if maybe I can just manage to sit the fan in place. So I felt like it was pinching the radiator hose a little bit, so I decided to disconnect that, and we'll try again. Something's got to work. Oh, that did work. It's in. Excellent. Alright, we're back for like day 380,000 on this project. So I got new hardware for this because it was kind of rusty. It's not super high quality hardware because it's from Lowe's, but hopefully it will do the job. Okay, I went back over the video and it was pretty logical. It was obviously the greens with the greens, the grounds, and blacks with the blacks and the blue, the whites all together. So there was no surprises there. I like to pull on each strand individually on these. I'll tell you real fast if you got it or not. In this case, I do not. I know you can twist all these together, but with the stranded wire, it doesn't work too well. You just need the small wires up front. So Foretravel had these taped up so they couldn't unravel. That seems like a fine idea. I hope I'm not doing all this work for nothing and I'll have to get right back in here again. And if it bursts into flames, it won't immediately ruin everything. Alright, so it's time to fill the coolant. I'm using this Fleetguard ES Complete OAT. This is the same I use in the big engine. It has a very, very long service life. It's 300,000 miles, and whatever you want to equate that to in years, I'm sure they say 1 year. I got my solution to that problem. It's a, I got this at Walmart one day. It just screws onto the bottle, and it seems to be these threads are universal. And then you can just kind of put it and squeeze it, and you know, you can reach around a lot of obstacles with it. And it occurs to me, the one thing I didn't do yet is open up the bleed valve. So we'll have to do that. The goal here is to fill it up without having it leak out the bleed valve for half an hour. Once we get close to the top of this, the coolant should be flowing through here, because this is just under that top level. Really, only barely, so this should fill the radiator as long as you put it up real full. Got 1 gallon in so far, so I don't think it's going into the radiator. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one off and I'm going to fill from this pipe, which will go down in and it'll backfill the bottom one. And there's going to be an air pocket, but I don't really see a way to work around that. You hear those bubbles coming through. I think we're there. I think that's it. A bit of a mess to clean up, but alright, I believe that's enough to make it safe to start. So we'll clamp everything down, wipe everything down because it's going to steam. Alright, here you are back. I got the coolant in. I mean, it took a full 2 gallons, so I think that's right. The rope thing I did away with and I changed to this ratchet strap. And I cut off the end to cut it to length and I wrapped it around the hose and tied it. And that is really nice. That gets it up over the exhaust and puts a nice air gap, and I like that. I think this is going to work. I'd like to come up with something better, but this will do for now. I think we are ready to give this a shot. So let's give it a shot. At this point, we just have to make sure there's, you know, heat in the coolant hoses and that it doesn't shut down for overheat. And I have to reinstall the docking light, but I'm not going to subject you to that because I think that's pretty easy. It's just the stainless screws and nuts I got. And I think that's going to conclude this. And you'll see I relocated the fan capacitor to this side, so when that eventually dies, I'll be able to just visit an HVAC store the same day and fix it instead of sweating. So anyway, if you try all this stuff, good luck. I know my way is not perfect, but I did my best and hopefully it holds up.